Hello, everyone, welcome back to the channel Global Times USA. Please subscribe and like my videos, because today we are covering one of the most dramatic breaking news developments in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. What has unfolded in the skies above Moscow is something that military experts, political analysts, and ordinary citizens will remember for decades. Ukrainian drones have launched one of the largest attacks yet on Russian soil, and the result has turned parts of Moscow into what eyewitnesses are calling a literal firestorm. This is not just another routine strike. This is an escalation that carries with it deep implications for the future of the conflict, the security of Russia's capital, and the response from global powers. Today, we are going to break this down in detail. We will analyze the situation from every possible perspective, from the exterior picture of the city burning, to the interior story of political leadership and civilian life, to the performance of the weapons, the safety concerns for millions of people, the unique selling points of Ukrainian drone warfare, the estimated cost and so-called price of this strike, and finally a conclusion on what this means for the future of the war. When we talk about the exterior, we are referring to the visible face of Moscow after the attack. Satellite images and street-level videos show massive flames consuming high-rise towers in the Moscow city business district, a place once seen as a symbol of Russian financial power and modern architecture. Thick black smoke rose into the skies, visible for miles in every direction. Witnesses described explosions that shook entire neighborhoods, windows shattering in apartments, car alarms going off, and people rushing down staircases to seek shelter in underground parking garages. Fire brigades struggled to reach the burning areas quickly because multiple buildings were hit nearly simultaneously. For the residents of Moscow, the exterior view was nothing short of apocalyptic. A firestorm is not just a fire, it is an overwhelming wave of destruction where heat, flames, and debris combine to create chaos in the air itself. Moscow's skyline, usually glittering with bright lights and skyscrapers, was instead illuminated by fireballs and smoke plumes. It is one thing to hear about war at a distance, but it is another to see the symbols of your capital engulfed in flames. That exterior image has now become one of the most powerful visuals in this war. Now, let us go deep into the interior, because this is where the human side of the story really unfolds. Inside the political chambers of the Kremlin, there was panic, confusion, and anger. President Vladimir Putin, who has long projected an image of total control and unshakable authority, is reported to have held emergency meetings with his top generals and security advisors. Imagine sitting inside one of those secure rooms with officials frantically showing real-time drone footage, radar reports, and intercepted communications. The atmosphere would have been tense, with questions flying in every direction. How did Ukrainian drones reach this deep into Moscow? Why did Russian air defenses fail to stop them? What is the scale of the damage? What will the people think when they see their capital under attack? Beyond politics, the interior story extends to ordinary Muscovites. Families were huddled in their living rooms, with children crying and parents desperately trying to comfort them. Some were hiding in basements, others glued to their phones scrolling through Telegram channels for updates. Hospitals received waves of injured people, not just from burns and shrapnel, but also from panic-related accidents. The psychological interior damage is as severe as the physical one. People no longer feel safe inside their own homes. When drones can strike skyscrapers in the very heart of the capital, the illusion of safety is shattered. The interior also includes the ripple effect across Russia's elite society. Businessmen who owned offices in the damaged towers are facing massive losses. Employees who once worked proudly in Moscow City now face unemployment and trauma. The interior story is therefore one of fear, uncertainty, and shattered confidence. It is long, it is complex, and it may take years for Moscow's citizens to recover from the psychological interior wounds created by this firestorm. When it comes to performance, the Ukrainian drones have once again demonstrated surprising effectiveness. These are not billion-dollar fighter jets or sophisticated hypersonic missiles. These are relatively low-cost unmanned aerial vehicles, some of which are modified commercial drones, while others are purpose-built military systems. Yet, their performance in penetrating one of the world's most defended airspaces is remarkable. Russia has invested heavily in air defense systems like the S-400 and Pantsir-S-1, but the drones flew past these layers and still managed to strike critical targets. Performance here is measured not just by how far the drones flew, but by the scale of the impact they created. Some reports suggest that over 90 drones were launched in a coordinated wave, overwhelming Russia's defensive systems. The drones flew low, they flew fast, and they attacked from multiple directions. This tactic made it almost impossible for Russian defense operators to intercept them all. For Ukraine, the performance of these drones is a military victory. It shows adaptability, innovation, and the ability to strike not just military bases near the front lines, but the very heart of Russia's political and financial hub. For Russia, the performance failure is glaring. Billions of dollars worth of defense equipment could not protect the capital from relatively inexpensive drones. That performance gap is now the subject of global discussion, and it will change the perception of modern warfare. Now, let us consider the safety features, or rather the lack of them. For ordinary civilians in Moscow, there were almost no safety measures to protect against this kind of attack. Air raid sirens did sound in some neighborhoods, but many Muscovites reported they were too late or barely audible. Shelters are limited, and people living in high-rise apartments had nowhere to run as drones smashed into buildings. Fire suppression systems in the towers were not prepared for multiple explosions. In one case, fire sprinklers failed because the power grid was disrupted by the strike. Safety features at the national level also failed. Radar systems did not detect every drone, electronic jamming systems did not neutralize them, and anti-air missiles missed their targets. This shows a critical weakness in Russia's ability to ensure safety for its population. The only real safety feature that worked was human instinct. People running, hiding, and trying to protect loved ones. This lack of safety highlights how vulnerable even powerful nations are to drone warfare. Safety is not only about physical protection, but also about the government's ability to assure its people. In Moscow, that assurance is broken. The unique selling points of this attack are what make it stand out in history. First, it demonstrates that war is no longer confined to front lines. With drones, distance is not a barrier. Ukraine has shown it can reach deep into Russian territory. Second, the strike carries symbolic weight. Moscow is not just another city, it is the political and cultural heart of Russia. To see it burning sends a message far beyond physical damage. Third, this attack showcases the cost-effectiveness of drone warfare. Ukraine spent perhaps a few $1 million on this operation, while Russia lost billions in damage, insurance claims, and shaken investor confidence. Fourth, the attack shows psychological superiority. It is not about destroying the entire city, but about making the people and the leadership feel vulnerable. Fifth, the unique selling point is adaptability. Ukraine has turned civilian technologies into weapons that can challenge one of the most powerful militaries on Earth. These points make this strike more than just another battle. It is a turning point in how wars will be fought in the future. When we talk about price, we must see both the literal and symbolic costs. Literally, estimates suggest that damages to Moscow's skyscrapers, infrastructure, and businesses could amount to hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Insurance companies will face huge payouts. Investors may withdraw from Moscow city projects. Repairing fire damage in skyscrapers takes months, and some businesses may never return. On the military side, the price Russia paid is not only in destroyed property, but in the wasted billions spent on defense systems that failed to perform. On Ukraine's side, the financial cost of the drones is relatively small. However, the political price may be more complex. such a bold strike could provoke a harsher response from Russia, possibly more missile attacks on Ukrainian cities. The price is therefore not just monetary but strategic. Symbolically, the price is the loss of Russia's image as an untouchable power. Once your capital burns, the world sees your vulnerability. That image loss is priceless, and it will shape Russia's global reputation for years to come. Finally, the conclusion. This drone attack turning Moscow into a firestorm marks one of the most significant escalations in the Russia-Ukraine war. It shows the evolution of modern warfare where drones, small and inexpensive, can challenge giants. It reveals the vulnerability of even the most heavily defended cities. It damages Russia's economy, shakes its political leadership, and terrifies its population. For Ukraine, it is both a military and psychological victory. For the world, it is a wake-up call that wars in the 21st century will look very different from the past. They will be fought not only with tanks and missiles, but with swarms of drones, cyber tools, and asymmetric strategies. As the smoke clears over Moscow, the real battle now is for narrative, perception, and resilience. Will Russia escalate in retaliation? Will Ukraine continue to push deeper into Russian territory? Will global powers intervene more actively to prevent further chaos? These questions remain unanswered, but one thing is certain. The firestorm over Moscow has changed the course of this war forever.